13th February 1976, Murtala was killed at a traffic jam in the city of Lagos. His ADC, Lieutenant Akintunde, was also killed. Some persons have said that the driver was also killed, but others have said that the driver survived the attack. It was a bloody day in Nigeria's history. But the truth is that DIMKA was not allowed to take over the reins of power after his elimination of Murtala Muhammad. He was not the one that replaced Murtala as military head of state of Nigeria. The question here is, how was it possible to stop the rampaging man DIMKA from taking over the reins of power, and who was this person that stopped him? That person was then Lieutenant Colonel Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, who was sent by his superior on a dangerous mission that had the propensity of taking his own life. But Babangida went on the mission and returned unhurt. This was the first major assignment that threw Babangida's name to national limelight. In this edition of Back in History, we take you back in time to the day Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida dislodged Lieutenant Colonel Bukasuka DIMKA from Radio Nigeria, where DIMKA had taken full control of the radio station minutes after his assassination of the head of state. In an interview which he granted many years after leaving office as military president of Nigeria, as made public by Symphony, an online media platform, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida recounted his role in the stoppage of DIMKA's coup. Here is what he said, in quote, "We had what is called the Chief of Army Staff's Day, which held on that very day, 13th February 1976. A conference was scheduled to hold on the reorganization of the Nigerian Army. I remember that in the morning they were looking for me at the Army headquarters. I did not get into the office at the time. So when I got in, everyone said, 'Where have you been? They've been looking for you.' So I said, 'But I am not late.' I looked at my watch and said, 'I am not late. The conference is scheduled to start by 9 a.m. It is not yet 9. I was unaware of what had taken place. I did not know, quite frankly, what had taken place at the time. I went upstairs to see my boss, the Chief of Army Staff, General Theophilus Danjuma. On my way up, I met General Akinreade, who said, 'Ibrahim, where have you been? We've been looking for you all over the place.' I said to him, 'No, sir, I am not late.' He said, 'No. Didn't you hear?' I said, 'What?' He said, 'Go up and see the chief.' I left him and went up to see the Chief of Army Staff. I went and met him. He asked, 'Ibrahim, where have you been? We've been looking for you. Didn't you hear what just happened? That there is a coup?' I said, 'No, sir, I did not hear.' He said, 'DIMKA just staged a coup. I want you to go and flush him out.' That was all he said to me. That was the instruction." Babangida then went on to say, still in quote, "I had to immediately come down to move to Ikeja. That is where my troops were. They were at Ikeja barracks. I had to drive through Marina. A lot of thoughts came into my head at the time about whether all my soldiers were loyal or had been compromised, or what am I going to find on arrival. Fortunately, I had loyal troops. They were very, very loyal. So I went into the cantonment to join the troops. That was what happened." In August 2021, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida granted an interview to Ladi Akeredolu of Channels Television, one of Nigeria's leading media outfits. The interview was held at Babangida's home in Minna, Niger State, where Babangida is from, and several questions were thrown at Babangida, one of which was how he was able to approach Radio Nigeria and dislodge DIMKA in 1976, while Babangida went to the radio station unarmed, whereas the order from his superior was for him to storm the radio station and dislodge DIMKA. In his response, Babangida went back in history and stated thus, in quotes, "DIMKA was my friend. We grew up together as young officers and we trained together. When I say he was my friend, what I mean is that he was really my friend. I was sent to storm the radio station. I later understood at the time that I was asked to storm the radio station, that DIMKA was at the station announcing to the nation that Murtala had been removed as head of state of Nigeria and that there is a change in government. But storming the radio station, as I was commanded to do, would have led to many casualties. Maybe a lot of you journalists that were working in the station at the time would have been killed. So I took advantage of my closeness and relationship with him and moved into the radio station. As a human being, I believed then in my mind that he, DIMKA, would not see me coming unarmed and put a bullet on my head. I believed there in my mind that he would give me a chance and wouldn't do that. It is just like in our military training, where you are taught it is immoral to kill an unarmed man or someone who raises a white flag. Rather, you allow him to come, you then arrest him and put him aside and continue. Both of us, I and DIMKA, know that as part of our training, that you do not shoot and kill an unarmed man. But I went into the radio station unarmed. It was a risk. It was a serious risk. But someone needed to take the risk. End of quote. This is how Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida risked his life to move into the studios of Radio Nigeria to stop an ongoing coup process. He entered the studio and dislodged DIMKA from the console. He succeeded in making DIMKA to abandon his mission and flee the studio. That was the end of the coup, the leader of the coup, Lieutenant Colonel Bukasuka DIMKA, having been dislodged. Radio Nigeria was very critical to every coup plotter in Nigeria at the time. It was the only available medium of mass dissemination of information across the length and breadth of Nigeria, and there was no coup plot without an assignment of one of the coup plotters or more to the radio station for prompt announcement at the appropriate moment, mostly when the head of government has either been removed and kept away or been killed and his seat taken. In almost all the coups that have taken place in Nigeria in the past, Radio Nigeria was pivotal to the completion of the coup process. In DIMKA's case, DIMKA went to Radio Nigeria and started making a radio announcement shortly after the assassination of General Murtala Mohammed. He announced to Nigerians that Murtala had been removed from office and that Nigerians should, in his words, await further directives. He continued with the announcement until he was dislodged by Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. The announcement stopped and the radio station was taken over by loyal troops. DIMKA escaped and fled to Jos, and from Jos he fled to Afikpo in Abakaliki in present-day Ebonyi State, where he eventually surrendered himself to a police officer on duty. From there, he was flown to Lagos, where he was tried in a military court-martial